So, hello everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today, and welcome back to session 2 of Not Stopping Now, a webinar on nature's resilience. This webinar is organised in collaboration with the Climate Ambassador Programme of Taisce, the Heritage Council, and the Biodiversity Officer Network. My name is Monica Mullins, and I'm a Climate Action Officer with the Climate Ambassador Programme with Taisce, supported by the Department of Environment, Climate and Communications.
And I'm Marina Mulligan, a Biodiversity Officer with Waterford City and County Council. I am delighted to be part of the wider Heritage Officer Biodiversity Officer Network, which are a diverse range of wildlife professionals working in your local councils to draw up your local biodiversity action plans. This webinar today is designed to help you reconnect with nature, learn a little bit what organisations across Ireland are doing to help biodiversity, and hopefully get you a little bit inspired to take action in your local community. We call this webinar originally Not Stopping Now because time and time again, even when we face it with challenges, nature bounces back. So nature doesn't stop, and why should we stop protecting it? We're inviting you today to come on a little bit of an adventure with Bat Conservation Ireland to look at the love and help they give nature along the way. On this second session, this is episode 2 of Not Stopping Now, we're focusing on bats, and we have 2 wonderful guests beside me here. First, we have Karen Healy, Projects Coordinator at Bat Conservation Ireland, and we have Ruth Hanniffy, Biodiversity Officer with Sligo County Council. Karen has been the Project Coordinator at Bat Conservation Ireland. She's worked in community and environment sectors for over 18 years. And outside of this, Karen is still a bat superfan in her own words. She has been a volunteer committee member, a roost visitor and bat carer for the Northern Ireland Bat Group since 2007. And Ruth has also researched and worked with bats for over 20 years, focusing in on the lesser horseshoe bat. And she is also a member of the Council of Bat Conservation Ireland, which will make for a very interesting Q&A later.
So what to expect for the next hour? After this brief introduction, Karen will give us an introduction to bats in Ireland. Around 1:40, we will start the Q&A session, which will be moderated by Ruth, and we will finish at 2 p.m. And just a reminder before we start, please remember to use the Q&A option if you have any questions during this presentation. And if you want, you can activate the caption option in Zoom using the icon at the bottom of your panel. And with all that said, I will hand it over to you, Karen.
So I'll just share my screen here. This works. So thanks a million, Marina, Monica, Ruth, and everyone for the Climate Ambassador Programme for inviting me along to chat to you today about that. It's great to see so many of you here, so thanks for tuning in. I'm the project coordinator of Bat Conservation Ireland, so in case you're not familiar with who we are, I thought I would give you a bit of an overview of what we do. So we're a charity and we're Ireland's leading authority on bats, so a lot of our work is focused on the Irish Bat Monitoring Programme. So over the last 20 years, staff and hundreds of volunteers have taken part in surveys for various different monitoring programs that we have. So the likes of the Debentons Waterway Scheme, the Care Monitoring Programme, and the idea of that is to sort of gather consistent annual monitoring to provide an insight into how bats are doing in terms of their population, their distribution, and if action needs to be taken. So the data that we collect is used by government and the likes of the National Parks and Wildlife Service and other organisations. We're also the umbrella organisation for 11 bat groups, and thanks to the hard work of the biodiversity officers, they are continuing to grow. So we have new bat groups forming every year, so keep an eye on that. Education's another big part of what we do. So we have 2 websites dedicated to them. So if you're involved in heritage and schools at all, the Learn About Bats website is a great resource. There's loads of free downloadable activities and information on that. And then we have the online training platform. That's great for anybody just starting out in the world of bats. If you're an ecologist, if you're a tree surgeon, there's something in there for everyone. And it's free to register on that as well too. So we're really excited about our new projects. We've one called Gardening for Bats. There's a specific website and everything set up for it. So by next year, we're going to be working with garden centres across Ireland. And we're going to have this sticker postcard sort of campaign where you see pollinator friendly plants in the garden centres will come next year. You're going to be seeing bat friendly plants as well, hopefully. And we have a bat panel too. So we deliver events across Ireland, and we have 41 members on our bat panel, and they're in different counties across the country. And they deliver bats on our bat talks and walks and things on our behalf. So if you have a look at our website, you'll see all the projects that we're involved in and the work that we do. So I was just thinking, last month's talk, Kate's talk, was fantastic, and there was one slide that sort of got my attention. She had this lovely slide with home furnishings with pollinator embolas and things on them, and like fluffy bees and blankets and things. So I thought, gee, I wonder is there anything like that for bats? And I did a Google search, looking at home furnishings and toys and things, and I'm really sorry that I did, because this is what came up. Not fluffy, not cute. I don't know why they all have fangs. Like, none of this is representative of bats, who they are. They don't have red eyes and they don't have fangs. Don't know what that bottom middle photo is supposed to be, but it's definitely not a bat. So I think there's a lot of PR work needed for bats still, despite the amazing work that goes on around the world. We still have a lot of work to do to change people's perceptions about what bats really are. At this time of year, you'll see the stores stocking up on all the Halloween decorations, and I went down the other day to the range, and lo and behold, big giant bat with red eyes and fangs. So it's one of those things that we have to keep working towards. But I have to say, I do like the spooky vibe sign, so it wasn't all bad. But hopefully by the end of this presentation, everyone will have a better understanding of what bats really are. So I usually start my talks with a wee bit of a quiz. So we're not going to make it interactive because it would take too long. So what I want you to do is to be honest, no Googling. Write down your answer on the sheet and just tally up your score at the end. So starting with question 1. How many bat species are resident in Ireland? 8, 9 or 11? The answer's 9. So we have the pipistrelles. So these are our smallest, most common bats in Ireland. So if you live in an urban area and you see hundreds of bats emerging from a house, it's likely to be soprano pipistrelles. They're about the size of your little finger, and they eat midges. And you'll see them around urban areas, woodland edges. They go up and down, they follow a pattern. You find them near water. Then you have the Leisler's bat, which is our biggest bat. It's about the size of the palm of your hand. Now, he would be the first to emerge in the evening. Sometimes they get confused with swifts, but they sometimes emerge when it's still daylight. So they are feeding moths, and they fly really, really high above the trees. So really distinctive flight, and their size as well gives them away. The lesser horseshoe bat, as Marina was saying, Ruth has done a lot of work through Vincent Wildlife Trust and the National Parks and Wildlife Service, done an unbelievable job with protecting and preserving the lesser horseshoe bats. They're confined to 6 counties on the west coast, southwest coast, and it sort of makes you think, because in the past their remains have been found in caves in Waterford, so their distribution has decreased to these 6 counties for some reason. So habitat destruction must have played a part at some stage. They were more widespread than what they are. They're the only bat species in Ireland that can actually wrap their wings around themselves, and they have a distinctive nose leaf, which gives them the horseshoe shape on their face. The brown long-eared bat is my personal favourite. Their ears are as long as their body. They can actually hear insects walking on leaves and on walls. And they love to eat spiders. You'll find them in barns, in attics, in trees, and they glean as well. So they can actually hover and remove insects from like a spider web or a tree or a leaf without actually landing. Then you have the Benton's bat. They're also known as the water bat. They'll fly really close to the surface of the water, and they'll use their giant feet with the hairs on them to lift insects off the surface of the water, or they'll flip the insect with their tail. I'll talk a wee bit more about the Benton's bat later on. I don't want to go through each species in detail because we've such a short time, but that's just to give you an overview of our sort of key species. We've a new woodland monitoring program that is looking at whiskered and natters for the first time as well. So we're really excited about the results that's going to come from that. So if you keep an eye on our social media and website, you'll find more details about that next year. Question 2. Place a bat rests during the day is called not a nest, a roost. So bats aren't rodents, they don't build nests. And this video that I'm showing you now is actually a brown long-eared roost. It was taken with a thermal camera. The glowing ones, that is individual brown long-eared bats, and they tend to huddle together in the attic. And you'll see one just about to take flight. Some bat species will freely hang. Some will go behind the beams, and others will choose a crevice to hide inside. All they want to do is find somewhere nice and warm and dry and dark to hide from predators, and then they emerge in the evenings and to feed on insects in your garden. So they don't nest. True or false? Bats are blind. False. They can see. Their eyes are adapted for dim and low light levels, and they use echolocation to hunt for their prey in the dark. So what they do is they send out this really high-pitched sound. It bounces off the insect and it comes back to the bat. And this is done at lightning speed, and the bats are able to navigate and catch prey in complete darkness, which is an amazing skill they have. So despite that saying blind as a bat, it's not actually true. This is a favourite. The many times that we've been told bats are just rats with wings, or they're just wee mice with wings. So true or false, bats are rodents just like rats and mice. False, they're not. So they don't build nests, they don't chew wires or cause damage to the buildings or anything. And a female will only give birth to one pup each year, sometimes twins, depending on the species. But bats are actually more related to humans or dogs than they are to rats and mice. So you have here the golden crowned flying fox, and you can see it doesn't really look like a mouse or a rat. It actually looks more like a dog, which is the term flying fox as well. So the canine comes in there as well. So totally not related to rodents in any way. Next question. Is it a trick question or is it for real? True or false, bats try to get tangled in your hair? Mostly false. Now, the reason I say mostly false is bats will fly close to you. When you're walking in a woodland, there's mosquitoes and midges eating you, and they're going for you. So the bats are trying to get at them. Now, during the summer, especially around August time, juveniles will start learning to fly, and they have to use their echolocation skills, and they're only young, so they might make a mistake and you might feel the air whoosh past you, or maybe a tap on the side of the head. They're not actually trying to get under your hair, they're trying to get the insects, but they've just made a mistake. So that's another myth. So this is a rescued bat getting returned to where he was found, and you'll notice when he sees the insects how excited he gets. He doesn't care that I'm standing there, he has no interest in me or my hair. Watch what he does. He sees the insect. Right. Let me at them. Up he goes. And he started foraging right away. So we picked him up in the detector. You could hear the feeding buzzes specific on the detector. And he was happy, flying around, didn't bother us in any way. So can you name something Irish bats might eat? So do they eat burgers? Do they eat leaves? They eat insects. So midges, moths, spiders, mosquitoes, caddisfly, and what you'll find too is they eat daddy longlegs or cranefly. And as you know, their larvae, the leather jackets, are a real pest in the gardens. They eat crops and vegetables and plants and things. So if you've bats in your garden, it'll reduce the number of the leather jackets as well, because they're eating the adults. So they're gardeners' friends as well as everything else. So we need bats, definitely need bats in our gardens. So this leads us on to the next question. How many midges can a pipistrelle eat in one night? Unbelievably, over 3,000. So they're major pest controllers, not just here in Ireland, but across the world. They help control pests of things like cotton and rice crops as well. And they're pollinators, so we'll talk about that in a while, but amazing number of insects eaten in one night. So is this a trick question? How many species of vampire bats are there in the world? Are there any? There's 3, and they do all eat blood. That's just how they've evolved. They can't help that. Did you know vampire bat has actually helped medical science progress because they've taken samples of their saliva and they found an anticoagulant in it, a glycoprotein, and it makes blood run thin. So they've actually used it. They developed stroke and heart medication and high blood pressure medication, and they've called it Draculin. I love that name, Draculin. So they're not all bad. So here we have the real facts about that's what they really are. So they're over 52 million years old, so they've evolved over 52 million years. They're the only mammal in the world capable of true flight. So you have a thing called a flying squirrel. They don't actually fly, they glide between the trees. And so bats are the only ones that can actually maintain flight. There's over 1,466 species as of May 2024. There's a specific website that keeps an eye on all the new species, and every year that number's climbing, which is great. They find new species every year, or ones that they thought was extinct, they're finding them again, which is fantastic. So in Ireland, UK, and Europe, bats are protected as well. And we know all the other facts about them now, that they're not blind. All the myths have been debunked. They're not rodents. And the females form maternity colonies and give birth to 1 pup each year. So those are the real facts about bats that we need to take away. So their Latin name is Chiroptera, which means hand wing. So if you look at a bat's wing, they actually have a thumb and 4 fingers, a wrist, a shoulder, and an elbow. So it's kind of like ours. If you stretch your hand and arm out, you'll see the similarities. So if we were bats, our fingers would touch the ground, it would be covered with a membrane. We'd be able to fly too, if only. So around the world, this map is just a heat map showing where most of the species are around the world. So you see Central and South America and Southeast Asia are hotspots for the number of species in the world. So of those 1,466 species, most of them are sort of centered around Central America. The biggest bat in the world is called the giant golden crowned flying fox, and he has a wingspan of about 5 feet, which is huge. He's a fig specialist, so he eats figs, and they're really important for the forests in those areas. They help regenerate the forests in the Philippines. Smallest bat in the world is Katie's hognose bat, or the bumblebee bat, and as you can imagine, is the size of a bumblebee. And we've already talked about there's 3 vampire species in the world, all in Central and South America. So why do we actually need bats? They're crucial, not just for pest control, as we know they eat 3,000 midges in one night, but for food security too. They help with crops. For cotton, rice, and even chocolate. They control the pests that would eat those crops otherwise. They disperse seeds as well of trees and plants and regenerate forests. They're pollinators, so things like bananas and mangoes, they pollinate the flowers that give us those. In culture, so in China, if you carry a bat symbol, it's a sign of good luck. And it's been used since the 14th century. There are biodiversity indicators as well. So the video that you're seeing there is Benton's bats flying just above a river, and they can give us an indication of how healthy the wider environment is. So if those bats disappeared, if they've been there year after year in our monitoring program, and then one year they disappear, we would be looking at why that is. So you'd be looking at the wider environment. Was there water pollution incident? Because if they feed on caddisflies and mayflies, those are really sensitive to water pollution. So has their diet been affected? Has the roost nearby been affected? So the Bentons will roost in old stone bridges and walls. So has there been works done to that bridge? Has there been works done to that wall, or has there trees been cut down? That gives you an idea of what's happening in the wider environment. And then most of all, for me personally, watching them and just being out in the dark, in the quiet, is amazing for your physical and your mental health. I don't know if many of you have ever been on a bat walk, but this week's perfect because it's Heritage Week. Get out there and experience it. It is really amazing, and you'll get addicted to it. You'll want to do it every year, even every week. Some of us enjoy it that much. So that's why we eat bats. So what they eat, most of the bat species around the world will eat insects, but you do get ones that eat fruit, nectar, meat, fish. There is fishing bats, believe it or not. And then the 3 vampire species that eat blood. So they're only a small portion of the overall pie chart there that you see. So bats in Ireland, this is a typical year in the life of a bat. It's not 100% accurate anymore because we're noticing things are happening earlier and later year on year. So in June, the females will give birth to a pup, and then through June, July, August, she'll feed and build her fat reserves, and she'll be producing milk to feed that pup. Then at this time of year, the pups are learning how to fly, so they'll be called juveniles, and they'll learn how to fly and feed for themselves. And the females will go into woodlands where they mate with the males. And once that happens, she stores everything inside her. And once November comes, they go into hibernation. So their body temperature goes down, their heart rate drops to about 20 beats per minute or less. And they'll wake up again in the spring. And when she wakes up in the spring, she'll be pregnant, and then she'll give birth in June, and the whole cycle will start again. So it's amazing. Resilient, that word resilient has come up. Marina has mentioned it a few times. Bats are resilient, but they rely on the environment around them. So if insects are affected by the weather, there won't be as much food for the bats to get out and feed. So they'll have to go on the torpor, maybe even during the summer, where they slow their body down to conserve energy so that they can go out when the weather improves again. So our weather the day, like we had surveys planned this week, and it's no go. You just can't predict the weather. It's unseasonably windy and it's unseasonably wet. So we're having to sort of adapt just as much as the bats are. So people always ask us, where do you actually find bats? And the answer is, where there's insects, there will be bats. So the main indicators are trees, hedgerows, and water. But if you have old buildings, old cottages, barns, bridges, really old bridges are fantastic for bats, and anywhere where there's mature trees, you'll have bats. So it could be an urban area, it could be rural. It really depends. Farmland as well, too. You get a lot of bats using farms. And it all depends on the species, what they're feeding on, and their roosting preferences. So they're spread out all over. So the likes of the pipistrelles, you're more likely to find them in a lit off urban area than you would a Deventins, because Deventins need water and they're also not keen on lighting. So it all depends on the species and the roosting preferences of that species. So we often get asked to, where do they actually roost? So in houses, if you're in an urban area and you've bats, you could be looking at houses. So there's so many places that they can roost in a house, from under roof tiles, in the fascia board, in the porch, in the corner of the window. All they want is a wee gap to get in where they can stay safe during the day and free from predators, and it's a constant temperature for them. And it's warm for pups during the summer. So females will often go into cavity walls and lofts where it's really warm, because the pups are born without fur, so they need constant heat. So in the winter, we don't really know a lot about where bats go in the winter in Ireland, but any ones that we've found, it's been in bat boxes or stone crevices where they can maintain a constant temperature and the humidity is high enough. But even if you're in an urban area, it doesn't mean that you won't get bats, because if you see this thermal camera, I'm just going to launch the video. Here you'll see there's soprano pipistrelles emerging from the fascia. So they are roosting that whole board that's sort of going down diagonally. They're roosting inside that, and it's lovely and warm, and only the bats can get in. So birds can't get in, other predators can't get in. So they're safe, and they can emerge in the evening then to feed on the insects in your garden. So as we say, they're gardeners' friends. They're needed. So how you can give bats a helping hand wing is last month's talk. Kate covered all of it. So follow the guidelines, and the pollinator plan would be the main piece of advice. So don't mow, let it grow. Saying no to pesticides and herbicides and glue traps. Now with glue traps, people are trying to get flies out of their house, or they might think that they have rats or mice in their attic, but it could be bats. What we see is bats are getting trapped in these devices. Even, do you know the ones that you can hang from the ceiling? Bats get wrapped in those. So we would try and encourage people just not to buy those. To try and get the flies out. That's what I do. I chase them around the house and try to get the blue bottles out the window again. And just try and keep everything as chemical free as you can. Because if you remove pesticides and if you're using herbicides, it harms our health as well as the wider environment, and the water too. It has to go somewhere. So another wee thing that you can do is create a pond in a bucket. You don't need a big garden or anything. If you have a wee container of water, put stones in it, put plants in it. It's a water source for the bats, and it's also food source because the insects can use that as well. And it's ideal for them, especially in warmer weather. It gives them somewhere to drink, and it helps our wildlife as well too, the birds too. If you don't have a garden, a simple window box with night scented plants is all you really need on your balcony, and that'll encourage bats. And night scented flowers as well is beautiful scent coming in your window, so it benefits you as well. Now, our new project, Gardening for Bats, I've mentioned it earlier. It's going to be launched properly next year. But some of it, we're working with a lot of botanists and horticulturists and garden centres and all these other experts. And we're putting a special list together of the plants that we would encourage people to put in their gardens for bats, and what to buy in garden centres and what not to buy. So things like lavender, honeysuckle, night scented stock, they're all fantastic night scented plants that encourage moths. So if you keep an eye on our website for updates on that, and our new website, gardeningforbats.com, is going to be launched pretty soon. Another simple thing that you can do is in the evenings, close your curtains. It stops light spill into the garden, and it allows bats to come closer. To say you've hedgerow near your house, it'll give them more opportunity to forage, and it won't put them away from the light, because if the garden's lit up, the predators like owls and things can see bats flying around, and it'll encourage more species as well to visit your garden. So something as simple as closing your curtains makes a big difference. We get asked a lot about bat boxes too. You can buy loads of different ones. There's all shapes and sizes and prices. But the woodcrete ones are the ones that you buy. We find these are used a lot because of the temperature, and there's no drafts and there's no water getting them. And they range in prices. You can get ones online for between €30 and they can go up to 100, €150, depending on the size. But if you choose to make your own box, we would sort of encourage you to follow the guidelines on our website of the spacing, the ladder and things like that, so that the gaps aren't too big and that the drafts and the water and all can't get in. And if you have an outdoor barn or something like a shed to cover the timber boxes with, it makes them last longer, because if you put a timber bat box out in a woodland, it's not going to last very long because of the moisture. It'll degrade over time, and it's less likely the bats will use it. So if you have somewhere to cover it, it'll make it last longer. And don't get discouraged if the bats don't use the boxes right away. It can take 2 years for bats to find the boxes, but the general guidelines is if you put it about between 3 and 5 meters up, if you put them on different positions, so if you have one facing south, one facing west, it gives them different temperatures and roosting opportunities throughout the year. More likely that they'll use them as well. Signs that the bats are using the boxes could be scratches on the ladder, urine stains or droppings, or you could stand there just the sunset and watch the bats come out of it as well too. So when you're putting the bat box up, if you sort of keep an eye on where it is, and there's no branches sort of blocking them from getting out, make sure that it's clear. It's more likely that they'll find it and they'll use it. Another question we get asked is, what do you do if you find a bat? Now, the first scenario, there's so many different scenarios and the most random ones. So if you're sitting at night watching TV and you see something at the corner of your eye, this is a true story that has happened to people. It starts flying around the room. What do you do? Besides some people screaming and running out the door, the best thing to do is close the doors inside, open the window wider, and the bat will find its way out. It doesn't want to be in there. It's likely to follow the insect that's attracted to the light in your house, which is why we tell people as well to close curtains, because it stops them from getting confused and flying in windows as well. If your cat has brought you a bat and you can see obvious injuries, it will need to go to a vet right away for treatment. And if you find a bat in your garden during the day, it's already in trouble. So it's either a young bat, it's gotten injured, maybe a cat has gotten it, or he's got dehydrated inside the roost and doesn't have the energy to fly. So what we encourage people to do is to wear thick gloves, use a cloth, and wear a face mask as well, because the threat of COVID for getting passed from humans to bats is still there, not the other way around. If you cover it over and put it in a secure box with a few pinholes in the lid and put a bottle top of water in and keep the bat there until sunset and try to release. Now, when you're releasing a bat, you don't lift it and throw it in the air. All you need to do is put the box outside on its side, open the lid, bat will fly away after about 15-20 minutes. And if it doesn't fly away in that time, there's so many carers around the country that can help you and advise you as well too. So we have the whole list of them on our website. So to finish off, good news. We don't want to stick to the bad side, the PR side of what bats are, what they aren't, but we're delighted that we're celebrating our 20th anniversary this year. So 20 years of Bat Conservation Ireland, and we have a few surprises planned over the next couple of months. The 16th of November is one, so keep an eye out very soon. In fact, this Saturday we're announcing what it is on International Bat Night, which is another celebration. So this weekend we're going to be promoting a lot of positive things about bats. You might have seen in the news that Taisce has officially banned the sale of bats, which is fantastic news. It's the Microbats of Melbourne. They sort of started the campaign and got every other organisation around the world that was involved with bats to sign this petition. Their followers got on board and the pressure got so much that Taisce has now banned it. Now, the problem with these was that the people that were selling them were saying that they were ethically sourced, and there was no such thing as ethically sourced bats. They were going on the roosts and killing these bats and displaying them for sale. So thankfully it's been done and the bats are protected. So well done to everybody that was involved in that. And then I thought I would end it with Batman, you know, the Dark Knight, the movie, where he was afraid of bats. That's why he chose it as his symbol, because he was afraid of it. And then he tried to get over his fear, and then he realized the bats weren't trying to get at him. They started echolocating around him, and it just shows you fear what you don't understand, which points us in the direction we need more education and awareness around bats, what they really are. So get involved, go to our website, join us as a member. We're always looking for new volunteers with our schemes as well too. So full training's provided. We send out the equipment and the postie. It is great fun. Everybody will be able to tell you, the woodland walk is lovely. You're going for a woodland stroll in the evenings in the summer. The waterway survey, you're going for a walk along a river. They're really lovely, and they help your mental health and physical health as well. So if you have a query, we've developed new pages on our website, so it makes it easier for you to find information. So say you've any of those queries, if you want to volunteer, if you need advice about a bat roost, it takes you to where you need to go. And if you want to request a free event for your local community group, we are offering free events thanks to our bat panel now, and we have a special forum on that. And check out all the events across Ireland too on our website under events. So thanks a million for listening. I hope I didn't ramble on too much there, Ruth.
Not at all. I think we could keep going on and on. Thank you, Karen. Oh, that was fascinating. And it's so good to see the global diversity of bats. We talk about our 9 Irish species, but the global diversity is incredible. And I think the bats and bat enthusiasts are grateful for the tireless work of Bat Conservation Ireland, the work that you all do, and having champions like yourself. It's really wonderful. And it's also great to see that the positive attitudes that has developed towards pollinators in Ireland is now extending to bats. It's such a natural but really important movement. And I've always thought that the way that people have embraced, especially our bee species, to see people embrace bats in the same way will really do wonders. So really exciting times and positive times ahead. So please do put your questions in the Q&A and I will ask them to Karen and look forward to hearing her answers. I'll just kick off with one of my own while we're getting people to put in their questions, which is some people watching will have maybe a tiny garden, maybe a bigger garden, maybe live in an apartment. And I would imagine people that have come on here are really action orientated and want to know what can they do. Do you have 5 off the top of your head actions that people can do to support bats in Ireland?
Oh, there's so many things you can do. You don't even need a garden to do it. Like I live in a really urban area in Derry, and the gardens are tiny as well. It's like you couldn't even call it a garden. It's like a sort of like a balcony with a wee bit of grass on it. So even if you don't have a garden, if you have a small window box with things like lavender, honeysuckle, ivy, nice pale scented flowers in it, putting it on your balcony will help encourage bats. And I showed you as well in the presentation, if you could put like a pond in a bucket or even a container of water out as well too, especially if it's a really hot day. Bats do need to drink water as well. So it gives them somewhere to go to get water, and it encourages insects to that area. Closing your curtains at night was another big one, as we saw. Like light pollution's everywhere, and I know the next session I'm looking forward to it, it's dark skies. The presentation last night that was there was amazing, like seeing the Kerry dark skies. They were saying the same thing, like having too much light affects us as well as the wildlife. So I think it's good that we be aware of just how much we're lighting up things. Do we actually really need to light up our gardens? Like, is it needed? Like, if you've an event, fair enough. If you've a really dodgy step, like I do out the front, you need a wee bit of a light pointing down. But as long as it's pointed down and it's in the right place, then it's fine. Other things you can do, if you own a cat, please keep it in at night. Or if you can't keep it in for the full night, let it out about an hour after sunset. The reason for that is cats are fantastic at finding bat roosts. If they bring you one bat, you can be sure that they're going to bring you more. They can find them. So the more we're aware of what our animals are doing as well, the better. And then spreading the word about bats is another one. Debunk the myths. If you hear somebody saying something like, "Oh, their rodents get their nest out of your attic," correct them. That's the main thing. That breaking this cycle of bad PR is what needs to happen for bats, I think.
Definitely. I mean, I remember seeing that fantastic image from the pollinator workshop, and then in comparison, as you said, to the ones you found for bats. And even when I'm looking at bat graphics in my presentations, I'm always looking for the ones that don't have red eyes. I don't think we'd accept such bad PR and myth about any other range of creatures, and it's done them so much disservice. It's done so much damage. So some of the points that are coming in, one is that Bat Conservation Ireland conduct annual training workshops for bat survey techniques. I've been to one myself. It was brilliant, do with bat handling, trapping, species ID, but the person said that these book out fairly quickly. So a request of having to have additional events to meet the high demand, which is great that people want to build up these really specific, these really expert techniques. And then another question, which is regarding daddy longlegs or crane flies. So they don't seem to be as many around anymore. And has that impacted bat species in particular, or is it just part of the general impact of collapsing insect populations?
There has been a lot of reports that the insects have declined, but you sort of have to keep in mind too that wildlife has natural cycles and fluctuations every year. So it might be a bad year this year, because of the weather. It has been horrendous. Like the amount of survey days lost for the surveys that I've been doing has been unbelievable this year. But we sort of have to bear in mind that there is natural fluctuations as well too. So by looking at the data from our monitoring programs coming into the winter and the spring, we'll know more. But as I say, the main thing that you can do to help bats is to follow the principles of the pollinator plan by helping encouraging native ones in your garden and not use pesticides. That'll help. But I don't really know about the crane flies. Like I've seen a few. I was staying in Cavan and there was a lot even in the room that I was staying in. They were in the room with that buzzing that you hear in the
Yeah.
background. They were everywhere. So it could be depending where you are in the island as well too. Wildlife populations tend to fluctuate in different places. But there was no shortage of them in Cavan, I can tell you.
That's good to know. And another really good question, I'm looking forward to hearing your reply to this one,
Oh
is
God.
why do we know so little about bat hibernation in Ireland?
Because it's so hard to survey. Like there's been swarming surveys done. So in usually around October, November, bats will start swarming, and what we know there is that they're getting ready to hibernate. So they're building up their brown fat reserves when they're swarming, and you can guarantee that where they're hibernating is nearby. So there's been a few places where they've been found in bat boxes. So it's like incidental findings that we have. It's a hard one to answer because it needs to sort of be developed, and it is something that we've talked about that we're probably going to maybe start doing just to see where they go. But it's all incidental records that we're getting. So people finding them in trees and bat boxes, even bats that remain in their summer roosts over winter as well. So we're logging everything that we get. So if you find bats in the winter, let us know. And it feeds into the bigger data set, and we'll be able to look at it in more detail.
And I also think it's amazing, 2024, people have been on the moon and we still have things we want to find out. I remember talking about liserers, we didn't know where they went in winter, and there were detectors put on some of the ferries to see could they pick up the bats eclocating as they crossed the channel. But there's something quite fantastic that even now, when we can do so much, we still don't know about. We often don't think Irish wildlife can be as exciting as it is in other parts of the world, but we're always learning. It's still changing. There's still plenty to be researched and discovered. So we need more people in zoology, really, don't we? Helping
We
to learn
do.
things.
We definitely do. We need more people. We're like even citizen science. You don't even have to be actively involved. Even if you're sort of looking at a bat roost in your house or near you, it all helps. It's a massive help. Helps us understand it better. And as you say, it's just the amount of technology that we have. And we're relying on incidental records. So it's definitely something that we do need to look at, I think,
Yeah. And
going forward.
I love that you mentioned the Dark Sky Ireland event last night, and Dark Sky Ireland are running the 4th of our Climate Ambassador series, which is on October 16th. So please do come along because dark skies and bats are so intrinsically linked, and really light pollution is something that's of such damage, not just to us, but to our wildlife, and bats as a species so dependent on dark habitats. But I'm interested in your thoughts on, there's a lot talked about awe and how important awe is for us. And you mentioned bats as nature therapy. What do you have anything to say on that mindfulness aspect of bats and your work?
Oh, definitely. Like yourself, like who goes to work to de-stress? Like we're so lucky. Like I'm just trying to think of doing the surveys during the summer there because I coordinate the brown long-eared monitoring program, and I get to go to all these different amazing places like the churches and graveyards. So you're standing there, it's like a full moon, the trees are around, you can hear the trees rustling in the background, and you're just watching the bats fly around, and you're listening to the sound in the background as well too. It's so relaxing. And when you see the stars and moon and all, you realize like you're part of a bigger picture. It's it connects you better to nature, and it connects you better to the wider universe, as they say. So it does have an effect on your mental health, and the fact that you're out in a beautiful environment and you're breathing in fresh air and you're learning as you go too. It all goes together to improve your mental health, definitely. Have you noticed that?
Oh, definitely. One particular bat survey I was doing was a night of uh, it was a huge, amazing sunset, really bright night, and was stunning. And I was sitting with my bat detector watching this piece of ivy on an old church in a graveyard. And, you know, it really dispels those kind of myths too, because these are the most peaceful places to be. And especially they've often got gorgeous old architectural buildings. And, you know, you've got a reason to be there. So it's not something you probably would do without the fact that you have to go and do a survey. But while I was sitting watching, I also worked out with pine martens, and a pine marten ran across the gable of this ruined church, then it kind of bounded slowly. I just thought I was seeing things into the ivy. And then what followed was about 5 minutes of the most unusual kind of screeching sound and kind of mild hissing sound, and then she went away along again and loped across the top of the abbey and off into and it was a bright night because it had been such a beautiful sunset and full moon. And I figured that it was a female coming to feed her kits. So that was the noise of them, you know, taking the food and probably wrestling with each other to get the food. And then she was gone. So between the bats and the pine marten and the kits, it was magical. Yeah.
We were in Galway there too, surveying for brown long-eared, but there was lesser horseshoe there. It was my first time
Oh,
seeing and hearing lesser horseshoe. Well, I can imagine what that was like. But at the same time, there was a barn owl nest. We were watching the wee chicks in the nest as well. They were looking out for Mammy coming back, and she circled above us, and like see the moon shining on her. You can see why back in the day they brought up the banshees and all, and
yeah,
the
yeah.
screech, and the place was so pitch black. And if that's all you heard, and you saw like this huge white bird flying over you, you would be scared if you didn't know what it was. The screech, but it was just magical. I'll never forget that night. It was brilliant.
And there is something about it, isn't there, when you're driving home at whatever time after a survey like that, there is a feeling of having connected with nature that you just wouldn't have if you hadn't made that effort to get out at this particular time of the night with a particular reason. And there is a sense of wonder, and a sense it really does benefit you in a way that another type of success or enjoyable activity mightn't.
Oh, definitely. And you're seeing so many beautiful places as well. Like I've toured Ireland this year. It's been amazing. Like I've seen these like ancient woodlands. I've seen all the different rivers and lakes and reservoirs that you wouldn't, as you say, wouldn't go to otherwise. And then I'm learning things about the dark skies. Kerry and Mayo dark skies are definitely on my list this winter. Oh my God, you'll see it at the next session. They'll probably show you the images, and it's not even just the dark sky element. It's like learning about the history and seeing all the rock formations and all the things from the caves and things that they were showing us last night. Oh, I love all that. I think it takes you out of your comfort zone too. It's not something that you'd normally do, so gives you a
And
boost.
it does, and they're so intrinsically linked. The dark skies, it could be the stoneworks. They even said last night that some of the patterns in the stone were designed to be seen at night. So you're connecting not just to nature and the skies, ancestors and the ground and the earth. You know, what does that do for you? It's hard to put words on it.
You get all emotional. Don't know if you're the same.
Oh, it's just
Emotional and everything.
just
Seeing
makes
bats like endangered species coming all around you, and just the moon and stars and all, and you're lucky you're standing there watching it all. You just
it
get all
is.
emotional.
It is a delight. And I guess with any sort of a bat survey or a bat walk, you're seeing them at that tiny little spot. So you get to be with them for a couple of minutes, but then they're gone. So you're really just getting a teeny tiny glimpse. And as was mentioned earlier, it's Heritage Week. There are bat walks taking place all over the country. So just go to heritageweek.ie, put in the word bat walk, and we have one tonight in Ballyvote in Sligo. You'll see them taking place. Obviously, keep an eye on Facebook pages because we also have this crazy hurricane conditions. So it's never dull in Ireland. So, but it's a great chance to get out for bat walks, and International Bat Night, as Karen said, many will coincide with that. And I think Bat Conservation Ireland, something, I mean, you do everything brilliantly, but the bat monitoring scheme, you know, we have some of the best monitored bats in Europe, and really these schemes are second to none. So there are loads of ways that people can up their skills and learn, and even the training on your website. There's no end of training and resources, information, and ways to get involved.
We have the online training platform that I mentioned. So see, even if you're new and you've never used a bat detector before, it takes you from like baseline knowledge right up. And Neve and the team are all working on new content as well too. So we're going to be looking at different bat detectors, about night vision and thermal, about bats and trees. So there's loads of things getting added to it over the next couple of years. So stay tuned to that. And as I say, if you're new to bats and you want to get involved in a monitoring program, we provide all the training. A lot of it's virtual. We send out the equipment to you, and there's support there for you too as you're doing it. So you'll never be on your own. If there's anything you're not sure of, we're always there. The end of an email or even a Facebook message or something, just get in touch with us. But we're keen to get more people involved, definitely.
Well, Karen, no better way to spend an hour than talking about these, as you said, resilient but intelligent, sophisticated, wondrous creatures. And I'm now very excited about tonight's bat walk, hail, rain or snow. So I'll hand back to Marina, and thank you.
Thanks, Ruth.
Thanks, folks. I am just so intrigued and fascinated by multiple aspects of that talk. And thanks for really bringing us into your world, Karen, and you as well, Ruth, in terms of bats and research. I think if anyone hasn't heard bat vocalizations, go and give them a listen, whether that's through the Bat Conservation Ireland website or YouTube videos. The lesser horseshoe bat is something absolutely to be listened to by everyone, kind of otherworldly, alien-like echolocation. Thanks a million to both of you for making our session possible. Incredible level of knowledge and experience amongst you. And thanks to the audience as well for really taking a lunchtime break to reconnect with nature. I'm going to hand to Monica to close us out. But just to let you know, if you are checking for bat walks, check out the Bat Conservation Ireland events website, but also check out the biodiversity officers in Sligo, Louth, Wexford and Meath, who are also running bat walks for Heritage Week this week.
Great. Thanks, Marina, and thanks to everyone. Remember, you can join us again for the upcoming sessions, and the next session will be on the 18th of September, where we'll be talking with Birdwatch Ireland, and there'll be more information on that to follow soon. And the links for that and the remaining sessions will be in the chat. We are also sharing a feedback form with you, which we would appreciate if you could take 3 minutes just to tell us what you think, so we can keep on improving. From the team, thank you all, and we'll see you in the next episode of the webinar series, Not Stopping Now, Nature's Resilience. And don't forget to check out some of the upcoming bat walks happening near you for Heritage Week.
Thanks a million, everybody.
Thanks, folks. See you again. Bye.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.